A pleasant good evening, Samoa, for the sake of our non-Samoan speaking audience. Pleasant good evening and welcome to another edition of our Torino program. Tonight, we have the great pleasure of welcoming our special guest on our show tonight. He'll be appearing on a couple of our episodes. It's a pleasure to welcome Dr. Peter Baofu. Dr. Peter Baofu is an American visionary and author of 144 theories and visions, with 178 scholarly books and many other numerous articles that he's written, and he's well known all over the world. He's been around the world on various television stations, and also his books and his scholarly writings are used on various universities around the world. It is a pleasure to welcome you, Dr. Baofu, to NUS TV this evening.
Okay, thank you for having me.
Okay, well, to start off, I thought I would just talk a little bit about yourself, and it's your opportunity just to tell the audience who you are and what you are about. And I've noticed that you've been all over the world on various television stations doing interviews. And I wanted you just to touch base on why is it important for you just to get the message out to people about yourself.
Yeah, you had mentioned some of my works already, so maybe I can just add a few more. I'm the author of 178 books so far in all fields of knowledge in relation to the mind, nature, society, and culture. That is, in all fields of the formal sciences, the natural sciences, the social sciences, and the humanities. And I try to provide different solutions and visions, and I have provided more than 145 different new visions and theories of the human future in relation to the mind, nature, society, and culture. Not just for one culture, one society, and one specific group, but in the entire planet Earth. And that's why I have been in more than 127 different countries by now, and shall be more. So that is the global project that I'm doing, because I'm trying to provide solutions to global problems. And that's why it's so important for me to go to so many different countries. And as you just said, I was also interviewed on TV around the world in relation to some of the solutions that I propose to solve some of the global problems on Earth.
Wow. The word that comes to mind is genius. We talked about solution to global problems. Now, for a small country like Samoa, we are not immune from the global issues that are happening around the world. As you will know, when something happens in Europe or in America or wherever in the world, it also affects our small island nation. Now, I want to touch base about religion, because it's such a common ground in the Pacific.
Yes.
Religion is huge here in the Pacific, and it's what we share as a common theme.
Yes.
Now, Karl Marx famously stated that religion is the
opium of the masses.
Of the masses.
Yeah.
Now, where do you see religion in any form of prediction going forward, particularly for this region? Would it help in that collective approach? Can it have an impact?
I disagree with Karl Marx, because not only that I think that maybe religion is an opium, not the opium, but an opium, not of the masses, but on a lot of different people. Okay, but even then, that is very misguided, I think. But having said that, I do think that religion, let's talk about Samoa again, because we're in Samoa. The Christian religion, as you know, is a major religion here. The last number I saw is like more than 99% or 98, whatever percent of the people are Christians now. That's good and bad in a way, because now this question is not just about religion, it's also about religious imperialism. It's a cultural issue here. It's a question of identity, by the way, cultural identity. Because in Samoa, before Christian religion, you have the local mythologies. I have written a book on anthropology, myth, that's why I know a lot about this. The Pacific Islands are also well known in anthropology to have their own myth mythologies. I'm not saying I believe in them, I'm just trying to understand
yes.
and analyze them. So you still have a lot of gods, myths, I mean, all this kind of thing, fine. But now, those are getting less and less spoken about, okay? Occasionally you have a festival, people will talk about it, but otherwise, throughout the year, what do they talk about on Sunday? You go to the church, it's always about Jesus Christ, okay? What the Lord and all that, the Son, the Father, or the Holy Spirit, and all that, on and on and on. It's every day. So that is a major problem now, because we are not talking about 5%. We are talking almost every family, almost everyone in Samoa is doing that. Now, that is a question of identity, because it is a colonial legacy, because Jesus Christ is not a Samoan.
Yes.
You are worshiping the white man as your God. There is some consequences in terms of the mental mindset. You have inferiority complex now because they colonize you. You worship them as your God. Now, how come white people do not worship Samoan God as their God? No, they look down on you. You go to Australia. I was in Australia too many times. Australians, I'm talking about white Australians, they look down on the Pacific Islanders as below them. You send a lot of laborers. I saw them. They work in Australia and New Zealand. What do they do? To be the president or CEO, the CEO, the president, the chancellor? No. You are on the lower end. You do all the dirty work for them. They look down on you. And I saw them the way they are treated, even inside the airplane. When the Pacific Islander, when you see them, sometimes say, yes, boss, yes, master. I ask some of them, I say, why do you talk to them like that? I say, oh, it's just a habit because I have been working in Australia, New Zealand. It's just the way that we talk. I say, do white people talk to you like this when they saw you say, yes, boss, yes, master? No, you do that to them. There's a colonial mindset now. You become independent, but you do not have post-colonial independence. You are still dependent on others for your own identity. Religion is one of them. That's a serious crisis, but you do not know about it because the religious institution becomes so entrenched, so established, it becomes so dominant. That is a major problem for the Pacific Islanders in the future. Because right now they are still too weak, too small to stand up. and many of them are not yet developed yet, to the point that they can confront, because this issue is also a developmental issue, especially cultural development now.
A very famous Pacific historian coined the phrase Bible before flag, which paints a picture of the imperialism and colonialism approach that Western cultures had over Pacific Islanders. Now, more or less, I was referring to a collective approach. Do you see religion as continuing in the same sort of spectrum, or do you see it evolving or within the society of the region?
In fact, I do think that now that is related to another theory that I remember. I'm not the founding father of 2 or 3 or 4. I have 145 different new theories and visions. Another one that I have not mentioned is I'm predicting another future of global politics now. Now we talk about global politics. That's what I call about the rise of China and India as the dominant superpowers on Earth. Now, that is going to have fundamental change in Asia and also in the Pacific Islands. And this is exactly happening now because China is coming in more and more. And that's why Australia, New Zealand, and the US are trying to ask everyone in the region to resist. I think that you may have some progress in the short term, but not in the long term. Because this cannot provide, satisfy the needs of the local region in the longer term. And that's why they need Chinese investment, infrastructure, and all that. Why do you think that the Pacific Islands, they must be so stupid if China is so bad as the Australian, New Zealand, and they have told you, why don't they keep attracting? Because China gave them something that they cannot get otherwise. There's something in Africa. So before you go and criticize someone, sometimes you have to see why that is needed. It's just like drugs in America. Politicians have been arguing for years drug trafficking is bad, drugs are bad, those are criminals, so you should not take drugs. Yeah, but think about it, I do not take drugs, but I'm just saying, if drugs are so bad, why do you think the US still have the largest market for drug trafficking? Think about it. It's not that they talk about this. They have been fighting against them for decades, for years, more than 100 years already. They are still there, still progressing. The market has become larger and larger. Why? Think about it. Think. Stop using the slogan. Think a little bit. Why? It is the same thing about here. So I think that sooner or later, I think that can make opportunity because once you become more and more developed with the outside sources that you do not have before, you will grow even more and more. Then you are able to unite more and more together. Right now, you are still too weak, you are too small. It's very difficult for you to do anything, but I don't think that you are sitting there for nothing. You are still doing that gradually, not that just within 24 hours. It would take some more decades and all that. I think Solomon Islands and some of the people have been doing that, but you are moving toward that direction further and further away from the domination. But the drawback here, the danger over here is that you may end up dominating by the new powers coming in.
Yes,
but so you have to learn how to balance out. As I always said in my publications that small countries, let's say I spoke about Ukraine, I spoke about Georgia in some of my previous interviews and publications. I said that the solution for them is not to fight one for the other or fight Russia or for the West, whatever, because you will lose in the end because you will end up being dominated by the other side because both of them are coming in. Ukraine right now, by the way, is a proxy war now between the West and Russia. So I think that's very bad. In the end, your country will be destroyed. And each side will be celebrating for whatever victory that they can have over you. So the best way to, it's like Switzerland. You try to be nice to everyone, but you don't pick a fight with them unnecessarily. You benefit from each of them. Over here in the Pacific Islands, I think that you can still continue to benefit from Australia, New Zealand, the US, or China, India, whatever, Japan, or Russia, whatever, but you balance out in the end. But if you continue doing what you are doing, you will get stuck in. There will be no progress, but the challenges are coming up. You need to do something. Yes. So religion, I think, another solution besides being unified among you, I don't mean that you have to unify into a single country. What I mean is that you cooperate with each other. That's what I mean. I don't talk about unification to be a big nation state. No. Now, another question is, which I think is very important, it's also time to change your constitution. Because some years ago, they changed the constitution in Samoa to include the mention of God in Christian religion to be their God and all that. I think that it may make sense at that time, but I think the situation has changed. I do think that that's very damaging to your identity because there's a colonial identity that you need to get away from. Now, this is a question about cultural identity.
Yes.
So, but in some other things, the solution would be different. But so I answer your question piece by piece. It depends what issue and which angle. But if you switch the issue in a different angle, I should have another solution. So it depends on what you have.
Now, Dr. Peter Baofu, it's been a pleasure talking to you. Thank you very much for availing your time to spend with NUS TV. And I'm sure our audiences, as myself, have, I've been intrigued, I've been educated, I've been enlightened, and I'm sure that our audience have felt the same. Thank you very much for being part of this discussion. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, brings us to the end of our program.